Well, hello, friends. Welcome to the From Busy to Rich podcast. This is a podcast designed to help advisors like you increase your profitability and your quality of life, not just for yourself, though, but for every person that you come into contact with. And we are done with our Practically Pretty series. If you missed that, it was 10 episodes. Our last one was pretty powerful about trust, and I hope that you'll check that out. That last episode especially was one of my favorites in the series. But we're going to move on to a different topic, and this is nuanced. This is a phrase that is it contradictory? It's counterintuitive. It's one of those phrases you hear and then you go, yeah, I know those two words, but they don't go together. And that's attractive interruptions. So with that, I want to welcome our folks today. Wes, good to see you again as usual.
Yeah, my friend.
And Justin, it's great to have you here as well. I think we're going to hear from you about some attractive interruptions, which people are still confused about, but good to see you. Awesome. So, I want to just say on the outset, attractive interruptions, jumbo shrimp, it's like one of those things, like what is that, right? Jumbo shrimp, people understand that, right? That makes sense. Attractive interruptions, I don't get it. So let me just to start with this. An interruption, most people hate interruptions just by our human nature. We do not like interruptions. Why is that, Wes?
Yeah. I think for most of us, we build a game plan, right? Whether that's in our business and on a vacation and our interactions where we can run. People love to be able to just operate in an autopilot or kind of mindless efficiency. So we build a game plan and then we start down that road. And if things are good and going well and you're happy about it, if someone interrupts that game plan, quite often it's just really frustrating. So the idea of an attractive interruption is really one of those things that has everything in the world to do with most of the work. Every single person is listening or watching this podcast. It is essential to being a good, attractive interruption, because we'll talk about more of this later. But most of the clients that you want to work with and that we can impact the most, they are doing pretty good. Like they've got good businesses. They are running down the road well. They're profitable. Things life is good, and they're usually like A personalities, like they're grinding on. And so they're in a part of their life. And so at best, worst case, you're a negative interruption. They're like, why are you talking to me? And why are we discussing anything here? And get out of my way kind of deal. But we can flip that. And I think the art of our business and what we teach so much is how to do that. And so to build on this, Andy, I'd love to talk about a couple stories that I think are relevant. So, right before shutdown in COVID, I was going to Las Vegas to speak at a meeting, and we're staying at the Aria, and we're going to be there for several days. My wife came with me. And so we kind of had a whole game plan. My wife's a planner. I mean, she's like, we're going to go here for dinner. When we get there, we'll stop at this place and we're going to do these things. And so I'm like,
but there's just a lot of things to do. I mean,
there's a lot of things.
There's a lot of options. And it's good to know that in your relationship, one of you is a planner. I thought maybe you'd be the planner, but
that's right.
That's a joke. So she's got the agenda, which is actually wise. Like it's, and I would say this, the larger story is it's smart to have a plan.
Yes.
Right. It's good to have a plan, whether in Vegas or you're just going to wake up, like have a plan for your day. That's fine. Right. But where the problem comes is when interruptions happen, right? It's traffic, it's whatever. So what happened to you guys?
Well, it wasn't a flight delay, because that'd be a negative interruption, right? That's like
you didn't get robbed. Right.
Yeah. Or it could be a positive, but I'll come back to that later. But what happened is we bumped into the concierge as we were coming into the hotel and we're getting, everything checked in. And he said, "Hey, do you guys like Aerosmith?" And I said, "We do like Aerosmith. In fact, they're favorite band of ours." And
you should say, "I'm offended you asked." Of course.
Yeah, am I American? Yes.
I was just going to say that. I'll let you say that. Yes.
Yeah. So we were like, absolutely. He said, "Well, did you know Aerosmith's doing a show here for the next week at the Aria? It's a very small show." He goes, "And you're staying here. We know you're speaking at the meeting. We can actually get you tickets right up front row center tonight." He said, "Can't do it tomorrow night, but we can do it tonight." And we both looked at each other and said, "Absolutely." And you know what? It didn't matter what our plans were. even though they were cool and we were having a great time already and we're on track to continue in that great time, because this interruption made things better than what we even knew about. It was an attractive interruption and the concert was great and it was wonderful and we loved it.
I love it. And I would say this is part of this is, I think there's two things going on, is that you have to be, and I think that on the personal level, I think that I hope one of the lessons you'll take away if you're listening to us today or watching us on YouTube is that you should be open to attractive interruptions. Because if every interruption to you is just an interruption, that's all it is, and you don't decide if it's positive or negative interruption, then everything's going to be an interruption. And I have a story about how I missed an attractive interruption once. But so one is be open to that in your life. But number two, if you're going to be an interruption, and most of the time you're going to have to be an interruption to make it in this business, then you better make yourself an attractive interruption, right?
Yep.
Go ahead.
One other funny story here that you can go to YouTube, and just so this sticks in your heads, and this is fun to watch anyway, but I don't know if you've ever watched Andy or Justin Carpool Karaoke with James Corden.
Absolutely.
It is hilarious. Yeah, I could watch hours of it. I'm not kidding you. But basically, James, he'll get these really famous singers, celebrities, and they carpool with James generally to work.
I love the setup of that. Every time they fade in, and it's him sitting in the car and he's on the phone, and he's like, it's something like I need to get to work, or I need someone to show me how to get to work, or it's almost like this, like literally, it's like, oh yeah, I'm outside, I'm ready. Like there's this, the bit is fundamentally based upon like we ride to work together.
That's right.
And they really play it out. So this one,
Paul McCartney.
Paul McCartney. Do you remember the start of it? I want people to watch the video, but watch the first like minute and then jump to 15 and a half minutes. But remember the first minute is? Do you remember what he does?
Oh yeah, he speaks the song.
Yeah, he's talking to McCartney and he's just doing Beatles lyrics. Is all he's saying. It's so good. Okay, so what happens though?
So anyway, so many funny scenes in this. He's taking Paul around to where everybody knows Paul McCartney. They're in
Liverpool. They're in Liverpool.
And then he says, "Hey, did you ever play these bars down here? There's particular ones." He said, "We play any ones we could down here." He said, "You want to give some guests a really really surprise of their life?" And he said, "Yeah, you bet." So they go into this bar, and actually, Paul, all you see is James. He goes behind the bar, and people kind of know who James Corden is, so they're looking at him. And lady comes up and orders. She said, "Hey, do you go hit something on the jukebox? It's kind of quiet in here." So she presses a button, and then pretty soon you hear bling, the guitar of "It's a Hard Day's Night," and the curtains open, and it's Paul McCartney back there singing, and the whole bar. Who guess what? Before that, they were having a great time. They were in the bar. They're having some beer, some wine. They're drinking and just talking to each other. And so this all of a sudden interrupted the great time that they were having, what they were doing.
Yeah.
But it was Paul McCartney, and it just was a attractive interruption. All of a sudden they stand up, they're cheering, singing. I mean, it was one of those great things. So watch it. But I just say all that because of this is the people we want to work with, and you personally, you are going to have an agenda. You're going to have a game plan, a way forward, and it's good. Not bad, good. You need it. But attractive interruptions, being one and being on the lookout for them, will make your life better and make you better at life. It just will. We've got some practical examples of this, Andy, for both cases.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you this. I was a little mad at you because you sent this to me and I get lost for a half hour putts around this video because it was so much fun. Yeah. And I got kind of emotional during one part because he asked James Corden to sing with them. I mean, it's great. And at first I thought these people are actors, but then I saw their response when the curtain opened, because the whole thing is they're sitting there just chilling, and half of this bar is a stage, but it was all closed off by a curtain. And then the great thing too is then they have him go choose another song from the jukebox, and then he plays that song.
Oh yeah.
So
pretty soon that bar is full. People are off the streets. I mean,
and then they start pulling people in, and
you got to watch it because it's a great reminder and takeaway from what we're going to keep digging into here today.
Right. So how can attractive interruptions play a positive role? And I think that first of all, again, we want to drill this in. You're going to have to interrupt people. They did not wake up today saying, gosh, I hope I meet a new advisor who's going to talk to me about my finances. And so you have to make yourself attractive. And some people are just going to be closed off to it. So I think most people are. So it's your job to be as attractive as possible when presenting yourself.
Yep.
I'll share a quick story and then we can dive into some examples. Before I moved to the Nashville area, I had flown in, and it's probably 10, 12 years ago. And I got like the cheapest rental car you could get. You know, like I got in and I was like, oh, they still have roll up windows. I didn't know they had those. You know what I mean? But here's why I felt so dumb is because I get there and this guy takes me out there and there's like one car and it's not my car. It's like a bigger, nicer car. And he goes, listen, man, your car is like on the other side of the lot out, like way out there. I'll just give you this one. I was so skeptical of like the upsells and I was like, no, I'm fine. I'll stay with mine. And he's like, really? I go, yeah. Cause I was so opposed to the interruption that I just was like, no. Now, I will say to him, he didn't really make it clear, like, bro, this is a lot better. Like, he should have just said, listen, I don't want to go get your other car. It's way out there. Just take the nicer car. He didn't really make it attractive. I thought he was going to trick me. But then for the next 3 days, I feel like an idiot because I'm like rolling up my window with my hand. You know what I mean? And it reminded me, like, Andy, you need to be more open to interruptions, especially attractive ones, and don't view everything just as a negative interruption. So how can people make themselves an attractive interruption? Because that's a really important part of growing your business.
Yeah, I want to talk about this in two contexts. I want to talk about it, the advisor themselves and the clients two clients they serve. So you've heard us talk about this, but attractive interruptions, we want to become the kind of advisor the clients we're looking for. Mm-hmm. So there are a multitude of clients out there that need everything you do, that if they knew about you in a way that was attractive, they would absolutely say, yes, let's work together. And we'll talk more about that. But it's the becoming part that I think is critical as it relates to advisor, because let's face it, all of you, new ideas are interruptions to your normal. Yeah. And all of us want to be better advisors. I mean, if you don't, I think you should add that to your list. You know, I want an advisor that's going to continue to upgrade and update. And so to get better, we can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. We've got to add new knowledge, new ways forward, new processes, new techniques, new classes that we take, information that we get. And so that's the becoming part, becoming the kind of advisor that the clients you're looking for. You've got to understand it's required to have interruptions to your normal. Your normal is your current way of going about making progress in life. And so one of the things that I would say to do this is you have to consistently create space for attractive interruptions. I've had a friend on Facebook post the other day that I loved a quote that said, consistency is the key to transforming average into excellence. If we want to continue to become excellent, we have to consistently basically protect time where we are on purpose challenging our normal with new, where we are saying, I am looking for things to interrupt the way I go about making progress in my life, in the way I think, in the way I act, in the way I see the world. That is a key component. When we observe elite advisors, they have a diet of this, and it's scheduled, Andy. So it's not like it's just randomly any little thing that bumps into them. They've got protected time every day where they're listening to podcasts, where they are taking a class, where they're getting new knowledge, reading a book, hiring a coach, where the goal is to challenge their operational assumptions.
Right.
And so to attractive interruptions, most people, they don't do that because they're like, but then I'd have to do less of the thing I already do all the time. And it's counterintuitive because you have to go a little slower in the beginning, but it lets you go way faster in the end, because the people that give themselves time to invite attractive interruptions, I want them to come in and help challenge the way I think. Those are the people that evolve and transform into something excellent.
Yeah. I mean, one of the most obvious, basic, and yet ignored truths is that if you want change, something needs to change. And there's so many people that look at their business, they look at their relationships, they look at their faith, they look at their health, and they want it to change. I mean, I think everybody's listening says, yeah, I want something about all those things to change. And maybe it's they're great, I want them to be greater. Maybe it's they suck and I want them to stop sucking, right? Yeah. Whatever it is. But if you want them to change, and you do, the question you have to ask yourself then is, what are you going to change so that they change? And where most people find themselves is things aren't changing because they're not changing. And it's because they're not creating space for the interruptions.
That's right.
I want a bit of a tangent here, but I think it's applicable that I think that there are people that there's something about, and I think you said this, is that yes, you want to have a plan, but you also need to be interruptible. I've heard this, and I think it's really fascinating. It's one of the most interruptible people was Jesus. Because they have all stories about he was on his way here and then this thing happened.
Yeah.
And he wasn't like, hold on, I gotta be here by tomorrow. Like, I can't stop and talk to you, like he's walking by the pool and the guy yells for him. He's walking by the road and somebody yells for him. He's walking by the street and, the tax collector screams, hey, he's like, oh, I can't talk to you now. We would have missed out on that story. Right. Yeah. So it's not, you have to create space for being interrupted. And again, we're talking about two things. You also have to be really good at interrupting people, right? And making yourself attractive.
Yeah. And I think that's where it comes to clients is like, as we said this at the top of the podcast, almost all of the clients that you want to work with, I would say all that you want to work with are doing good. They have assets. They've got businesses. They are high performing. And you're not in their life yet. The future clients, right? You're not a part of their life at all. And so their normal is not a bad normal. They're running, they're doing their thing. And so you represent an interruption to them. The question is, will it be an attractive interruption or something that just annoys them? And so that's why we spend so much time, and I'm going to scratch the surface of this today, Andy, and we'll reference a bunch of resources that we have available to go deep in this stuff. But something as simple as answering the question, what do you do? We talk about this all the time because most people, it's how they answer. They say, hey, well, what do you do? I'm a financial advisor. I'm a money manager. I'm an insurance agent, whatever it is. Unattractive interruption. I'm like, okay. And then on to the next thing. I've got a path. I'm running down it. I don't need you. Very rarely does that actually have any grasp or even in any engagement. An attractive interruption. What if I tap into something that's fundamental to their story that I know they're going to go, I want to talk about that. Like we give these examples. You can go dig into our collateral. There's tons of these, but what if I said, hey, well, how a lot of times it's easy for profit to disappear to the tax system? And they go,
Amen.
We help people with stuff like that. I own a financial planning company. We work with people who own businesses, help them identify and pursue profitable financial opportunities. They're going to go, that's attractive. That's different than all the other things I've heard before. Or when clients carry this message, Andy, clients will carry it and they'll be in a position where we'll get phone calls from people that are busy people, high performing, got a lot of good stuff going on. They're like, we really want to meet, Wes, because I talked to Bill today and Steven, and I didn't know that you could pay your kids a salary or an income of $14,000 a year and take a tax deduction for it, and they don't pick it up as income. And I got a small family business they work in all the time. And they said it saved them about $10,000 because they've got these 3 kids. And they said there's a whole bunch more stuff. And can we meet? They just interrupted. And so it's so much more attractive approaching things from that kind of language, that kind of angle. But most people don't prepare themselves to be an attractive interruption. They're just waiting around and they say it and they hope somebody happens to need whatever they think a financial advisor is, whatever they think a money manager is or an insurance agent is.
So I think, and again, this isn't like a criticism of someone's character or their value as a human being, but you need to make yourself attractive. You have to have a compelling reason to, the person who you're trying to interrupt. And it has to, and this is why you can't just have one. You have to have several. And here's the other, you don't have to, I'm going to overcome the objection some of you are feeling right now. How am I supposed to attractively interrupt someone if I don't know their numbers? That's where you've got to have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, some base knowledge of some idea that when you meet them, whatever you learn about them, in that time that you go, you know what, this may not apply to you, but also it may apply to you. Did you know about this? Yeah. And so you're not going to say, hey, listen, I have something I guarantee you is going to, make you $100,000 in the next 10 years. Like, don't start with that line. Right. That's 1, probably not true. And 2, makes you sound like a scam artist. Mm-hmm. So you start with, hey, have you ever heard about this? And that's where, Wes is trying to drive in the point. That's where you can be attractive is the minute you meet someone that, how could you help them? Right. And even if that's not the idea that you end up going with, I love helpful people. I like helpful strangers, right? Because I like my life to be better. So find a way to be an attractive interruption with people.
Yeah. And Andy, I would say if there's two things that people take away from today, it's one, create space for attractive interruptions. And two, just if like one thing that they could do is get good at the what do you do answer and discussion. What do you do answer is like you're out in place and they're like, hey, what do you do? Do that in an attractive way. And we got collateral we'll reference here in a second on that. And then the what do you do discussion, your first conversation with a person that's actually agreed to have a meeting with you, or it's an impromptu meeting because you're starting to engage in dialogue. How do you be an attractive interruption? Somebody's got already great things going on where they go, I'm leaning in. And every year we get tons and tons of clients because we are really, really good at that.
So friends, I want to be really practical here. And there's just certain things that this medium of a podcast, of a YouTube video cannot achieve. And one of those is that we can give you ideas, but we can't, this isn't a classroom. And so I want to encourage you to go to wesyounglive.com, and I want you to invest in yourself and in these ideas so that you can be an attractive interruption. That will happen. There's a class kicking off in August. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of advisors have been through these, many more than once because, they like going back. It's like a good movie. That's good enough. I could watch it again and again. Yeah. And so just understand that there are practical resources. Our hope is to equip you and inspire you through these. But I also, just being brutally honest, know that there are limitations to this medium, to this podcast. And that's why Wes and his team have built out these programs for you. So go to wesyounglive.com and just check them out. And I would encourage you to explore how they can help you on a really practical level. And that is Transform University is the name of the program that I want you to look at and look for. And if you happen to listen to this after the August session, there will be more. And we encourage you to be a part of that. Wes, I'll give you the last word.
Thanks, Andy. I love this topic because it is a bit of a play on words. To be an attractive interruption, when done well, will build out a positive outcome in not only your life, because you're going to get better, you're going to be more open to new ideas and transforming the way you operate and think, but also to the lives of all the people that are depending on you, all the people that you're serving right now to help them increase their profitability and quality of life. There are people out there today that if you do a little bit of work on yourself to be that attractive interruption in those momentary interactions, that will be transformed by having that contact with you and being a part of your practice.
Well, as always, folks, thanks for listening to today's show. We do appreciate those who have taken time to leave a review on the podcast app. If you have an iPhone, then just open that podcast app and there'll be a place for you to leave a review. Give us some stars. We always appreciate that feedback. Thanks for taking the time, and we encourage you to go be an attractive interruption. Thanks for listening.